I remember she used to apologize to me for having ADHD. I said, sweetie, I said, this is not something that you can help. I said, there's no need to apologize. And she said, Mommy, said, I know, you're so tired and, I'm trying to help you and I'm trying to help myself. And I just, I said, sweetie, I said, do you realize what a blessing it is that your brain functions this way? I said, when you're focused on something, you're hyper focused on it. Like, that's your superpower. I said, research. Like, if there's something she wants to find out about, down to the nth degree. But if it's something she's not interested
Wow.
in, eh. But you know how valuable those skills are? And then I told her too, I said, had you not had this diagnosis, I would not have learned about neurofeedback, which helped you. And now I get to help other people too. I said, this is like
Yeah.
the greatest blessing.
You're listening to Cold Press Conversations with Dr. Jewel White Williams, a lover of numbers, lists, and a good glass of cold press juice, who is sharing episodes each week to help you explore the back end of healthcare and health sciences, where a lot of that grit is done. We'll dive into topics covering research, education, and clinical practices, as well as guest shows with other leaders in the field. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these amazing and game-changing conversations. Dr. Candace Holmes is a distinguished chiropractor and natural brain transformation specialist. For over 14 years of experience, currently practicing in the Atlanta metropolitan area, she holds a Doctor of Chiropractic degree from Life University and a Bachelor of Science in Biology Pre-Med from Xavier University in Louisiana, where she was an active member of Alpha Epsilon Delta Pre-Medical Honor Fraternity, and proudly she belongs to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. As a certified brain core neurofeedback practitioner at Brain Core of Duluth since 2016, she specializes in non-invasive drug-free treatments for conditions such as migraines, anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, autism spectrum disorders, PTSD, and more. She's also the owner of Dr. Holmes Chiro to You, a corporate house call chiropractic service that delivers quality care directly to clients at their offices, workplaces, and gyms. Additionally, she hosts the podcast Reimagine You, where she revolutionizes mental health with neurofeedback. Dr. Holmes is an active leader in the professional community, and her dedication is to improve the lives of her patients through innovative and accessible healthcare solutions, as it is reflected in her ongoing commitment to education, community service, and leadership in her field. I now present you to Dr. Candace Holmes.
So my original intention was to go into sports medicine. And when I was at Xavier, the valedictorian, a couple of classes ahead of us, came back and he said, I barely eat. I'm not sleeping. He said, my mom has to do my laundry. My dad cooks. And I'm thinking, eventually I want to get married and have children. I said, so that's not going to work. So I went to the library to see what other options I had, and chiropractic came up. And I was especially drawn to the non-medications part of it, because even growing up, I did not like taking medication. My mother never understood why I would suffer if I had cramps or anything. So that was a good fit for me. And so I decided that I was going to go home that summer and find chiropractors in my local area who looked like me and see what their experiences were, and then to ask them where would they suggest that I go to school. And I did that with 3 chiropractors. One of them is, I'm 5'4", she's 5'1", and I'm thinking, whoa, if she can do it, I can do it. And all 3 of them suggested that I go to the chiropractic school here in Atlanta, and so that's how I ended up here.
Oh, that is awesome. So I know that you are currently practicing, but your practice is a little bit different. You're doing 2 things, which is
Yes,
amazing. I'm like,
thank
okay,
you.
where did she find this time? So you have 2 businesses, okay? And I know that you do. You have 2 businesses, which is amazing. You have the Brain Core Neurofeedback, because you're a practitioner for that. And then you
Yes,
also have the Dr. Holmes Chiro to You.
yes.
So, number one, how do you find the time? Because I know you got a family. But number two,
I do.
how do you intertwine the love of both of them and still meet the needs of all your patients?
Well, thank you. So I've been a chiropractor for 25 years. My oldest daughter, was diagnosed with ADHD when she was 7. And in chiropractic school, we try to stay away from drugs as often as possible, because we know the body can heal itself. So honestly, when she was diagnosed, I was in denial. I didn't want to accept the diagnosis. I thought it was
Mm.
just a catch-all. They didn't know what else to call it. And so, since I was in denial, I wasn't actively looking for ways to help her. I just knew I wasn't going to put her on any medication. So time went on, and I was going through one of our magazines, chiropractic magazines, and by this time she was 13, and there was a article that talked about neurofeedback therapy and how it was drug free and non invasive.
Mm.
The results can last up to 30 years, and ADHD, anxiety, and depression were focused on that article. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's something that can help her that doesn't include medication. I was like, what is that about? So that's how I came to find out about neurofeedback therapy, and did some research on it and decided to invest in the system and to help my daughter. I honestly didn't really care about anybody else. She was my focus because she was struggling. I mean, she was struggling so much academically. I didn't think she would go to college. She lacked focus and
Oh,
attention. I
wow.
mean, it was socially awkward. It was not great. She was taking about 5 hours a night to do homework, and it
Wow.
was just me. I was already divorced by the time she was diagnosed. So it was a lot. It was a lot. And so working with her and how she is now, I mean, she's great now. Let me just say that she's wonderful now. She's in college. She is in her junior year of college, and she is studying to be an environmental chemist. She wants to save the animals and the planet,
Wow.
and I couldn't be more thrilled. She's on the president's list and dean's list just repeatedly. So neurofeedback just really helped her tremendously. The transformation with her is just phenomenal.
I had a chance to, we're going to come back from the Kara to you, but I had a chance to listen. You stated in something that I was reading, or watching, because I do read and watch, a lot about my guests. It takes about 30 sessions, is it?
30 sessions of neurofeedback before the changes really start happening. Correct. And that's for a person that's a straightforward case. So no other complications or called comorbidities, but typically about 30 on average. Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right. It's pretty interesting. I wish we could like have people come into your world to see how you did it. I just watched one of your videos and I thought it was pretty neat how you showed the cap. And
Yeah.
it was really neat seeing the cap and how you were explaining exactly, this is where we start.
Yes.
And there was something about the way that you explained it allowed me to gain even more insight. You gave a good analogy of it, but this is how we start. This is how we get the data. This is how we get the research. This is how we know where you are, and we have to have a baseline. And I think that is so important just collectively in medicine, collectively, because if you don't have a baseline, somewhere you're going to go. And it's just so neat how you showed the cap and gave the insight of it. And I encourage anyone to go to her website to learn more about that part. But it's really cool. I loved it. I loved it. How do you help children become comfortable in that type of atmosphere? So that's where I'm taking it. How do you help
Sure.
children become comfortable in that atmosphere? Because I think a lot of parents who have children who have ADHD or ADD, they're at a point where they want to use something other than the medication, the pill form.
And thank
Take
goodness
them
for
away
that.
from some of the pharmaceuticals.
Yes. Thank God for that. I just the most people don't understand or realize that after the medication wears off, guess what? Those symptoms return. The medicines are a band aid. They typically have side effects where people don't sleep well, and or
Mm,
they have a loss of appetite. And so, I
mm,
mean, it's just yes. So getting patients comfortable, especially the children. I have the parents come in with the children first of all, so that's helpful. And then I explain to them
mm,
what's going on. I don't just go in there and say, "Okay, we're gonna throw this cap on." No, I don't. I said,
mm.
"This is
Yeah.
a cap. This is what it does. It doesn't hurt. This is an ear clip. Let me show you what that feels like. I'm gonna put this paste on here. Let me show you what that feels like." My daughter wants me to tell everybody that this feels cold to her, so I'm gonna tell you. It may feel cold to you. It may not. Because my daughter's like, "Mommy, that's cold." I'm like, "I don't think it's cold." She's like, "Well, you need to tell." I said, "Okay." Everybody has different, sensitivities. And so I make sure to explain everything. It's important that we talk to our children and explain what it is that we're doing. We don't just go in. I grew up in a thing where seen and not heard. um,
Yes, yes.
so I try to do a little bit, I want to say better. I try to be more conscious of their little person. They would like to know what's going
Yeah,
on. I have
they do.
I have a weighted blanket there to make them feel comfortable. I have eye
Mm,
masks that I use sometimes because part of the brain mapping requires them to have their eyes closed. I've had autistic patients who do better with the mask because just like concentrating on keeping their eyes closed is a challenge for them. I remember I had one patient who he was a teenager. He literally just put his fingers on his eyelids to keep them shut. And I was like, that works too. Like that works
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yes. So once you explain everything and what's going on and tell them it doesn't hurt, then their parents are right there. It's pretty easy.
Okay, so you've mentioned the weighted blanket, the blindfold, and weighted blankets are big.
Woo.
I mean,
Yes. Goodness. And
they're
heavy.
big. Even adults are using them.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
adults are using them.
Yes.
I just kind of want to go a little bit deeper with the bioneural feedback. Can you go just one step further now that we have it so that parents understand it? Because this is what I want to do. I want parents to understand that there are naturopathic ways and other integrative forms of medicine that can help children who have ADHD, ADD, or autism. And that's where you're focusing on. PTSD could be another
Oh
one.
goodness.
Um,
Depression,
Anxiety,
migraines.
depression. I mean, we could go on a
Everything starts
list.
in the brain. I mean, that's the long and short of it. Everything starts in the brain. I use it for stress relief. My dad had concussions when he played football in college, and so traumatic brain. Okay, so so just as we're sitting here, like what's
Yeah.
going on is our brains have frequencies that are just you just can't see the brain waves as we're sitting here because they are invisible to us. However, they are always there. So there are ranges of frequencies that your brain functions well with, and there are frequencies where it doesn't function so well. When it doesn't function so well, that's when you start having symptoms from conditions like ADHD or anxiety, depression, migraines, PTSD. So the goal of neurofeedback is to get the brain back into those frequencies where it functions well. And when it's there, those symptoms disappear. So when my daughter had her first brain mapping, the category that ADHD and autism is under. It's called a dysfunctional category, is what I call it. Hers was 10 out of 10. Like, oh, yes, the possibility that your brain's having this kind of challenge is there. And then after she completed sessions and we did a follow up brain mapping, because just like you mentioned, we have a baseline, she went from 100 to under 20, which is where the functioning well is. And so all those symptoms just went away. And I was just like, whoa. Like I noticed some things. I remember my youngest daughter said, "Mommy, you don't yell at her like you used to." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I haven't been yelling at her and I didn't have to help with homework anymore." It was like, "Whoa, like this is great." So woo, no more
Wow.
calls from the schools. It was just phenomenal. And her confidence, you know, went up and up because she was doing better in school and she could understand. And it wasn't a challenge. She wasn't staying up till midnight every night to do homework. That homework was getting done faster too. So it was just like, whoa, like this is phenomenal.
Good night. That is just
I
that
said, good Lord.
seriously, it's like an eye opener. An
Listen,
eye opener is huge.
and the thing that I have come to realize is when you change one person's experience in a family, it changes everybody's experience in that family.
Oh.
Everybody.
Oh.
Because the focus is on that person who is having some challenges, as I don't say as it should. It's just I just say I'm just so thankful that my younger daughter, was gifted and accelerated, so she didn't require as much of my energy because it's a lot, And I had a autistic family in yesterday, and they were just lamenting about how their relatives just don't understand what they're going through. And I said, "Oh, I get it." I said, "Because if you're not in it, you don't get it." My daughter's own psychologist, is a sorority sister of mine, and we went on vacation with her and her family. They have a daughter, and so it's the three girls. They were in their room giggling. You know how kids giggle, and the adults were up and we were talking, and they said, "How have you been doing this by yourself? Like you have to redirect her and tell her how to do something, explain it 12 times." And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, when you have her for an hour of that day. I have her for the other 23. And I was like, how do you not understand this? I didn't understand. I didn't get it until I thought, wait a minute, when she
Yeah.
goes home, her daughter doesn't have those challenges. Her day is over. Like it's good. I'm still going to my second job now, trying to help her because I want her to be successful. And patience
Mhm.
sometimes can wear thin after you've been working all day, and then now you have to spend another 5 hours
Yeah.
with a student who's just not. It's just not clicking. The processing is just not clicking. So, woo. And I've always been more patient with other people's children than I am with my own, and I think that's the case with most parents. So
I was gonna say that's most parents.
woo,
That's
woo,
most parents.
woo. and
Yeah.
being a single parent and not having an opportunity to tag team someone else, that was the biggest challenge too. So I would just
Mhm.
have to go to my room and
Mhm.
go, okay,
Take your deep breaths.
yep, I can do this. I can do this. And she needs me.
Yeah.
Who else does she have? So
Right.
and I just want that. I just want to save parents from that 13 years of just woo. And think about for my daughter, how she felt.
Yeah.
I remember she used to apologize to me for having ADHD. I said, sweetie, I said, this is not something that you can help. I said, there's no need to apologize. And she said, Mommy, said, I know, you're so tired and, I'm trying to help you and
Mm.
I'm trying to help myself. And I just, I said, sweetie, I said, do you realize what a blessing it is that your brain functions this way? I
Mhm.
said, when you're focused on
Mhm.
something, you're hyper focused on it. Like that's your superpower. I said, research. Like if there's something she wants to find out about, oh, down to the nth degree. But if it's something she's not interested
Wow.
in, eh. But you know how valuable those skills are. And then I told her too. I said, had you not had this diagnosis, I would not have learned about neurofeedback, which helped you, and now I get to help other people too. I said, this is like
Yeah.
the greatest blessing. However, when you're going through it, you don't see it. You don't see it as a
Right, right.
you don't see
I'm
it.
sure you don't.
No.
But what you're giving hope to so many parents right now. And that's the purpose of Cold Press Conversations is to
Yes.
bring experts, those who are in the medical and health science fields, to give you a piece and educate you of several options that are out there. Not saying one is better than the other. You have to research, you have to know who you're working with, even if it's for yourself, to find out what is best for you, the avenue.
Yes.
And that's why I have Dr. Holmes here, is because I'm a former teacher, former principal. I have seen parents change diets, tried weighted blankets in the classroom, try the wiggle ball, try the foot pedal thing that you have,
Yep. Fidget
try the
spinners.
little
Yep.
fidget spinners,
Yes.
the ball in the hand.
Yes.
I can go through the whole list.
Litany.
I mean, it is nonstop. Um, Pencil grip, where they can move it over and over again.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. Trying to
there's
harness that
so
energy.
many. Right, because you're trying to get rid of that energy. You're trying to do what it takes. Or you say, can you move my child to the back of the classroom so that they can stand
Stand
and get
up.
some of that energy out?
Yes.
And so what we're doing right now, Dr. Holmes, we're probably helping some parent right now who's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know about these things. And that's the purpose. I want parents to be able to feel there is a whoosah moment for themselves where they can take a break
Yes.
and learn what other avenues are available out there.
And get rid
And
of
I think
that
that's what
guilt.
you're doing.
Get rid of that guilt. I went to Catholic school from first to eighth grade. We went outside every day. Unless it
Yeah.
was raining, we were outside. Oh my gosh. That's where you get the wiggles out. You get the wiggles out when
Yeah.
you're outside. You get your sunshine. You get your vitamin D from being outside. You get to interact with your classmates. You learn how to make up a game, have imagination. Get your brain to have new neural pathways formed. It's some of those basic things that we used to do. I really feel need to be put back into the curriculum. I just like taking. I'm still not over there taking nap time from kindergartners. I'm like, the
Yeah.
brain
Yeah.
still functions. The brain still progresses and grows at the same rate. Why would you take that away? Like I don't get it. And wondering why we are where we are. When
Oh,
you
there
have
you go.
adults need breaks. Like how many times would we
Right.
like to get out
Right.
at lunchtime and go, you know, so we
Right.
can so we can reset and refresh ourselves. So why would you think a child wouldn't require that? I mean, like I
Yeah.
was a substitute teacher for 4 years in middle schools here, and there's 20 minutes from the time you leave the class to get the food, eat, and go back up. And I said,
Yeah.
so when are they going outside? They're like, oh, they don't go outside. What do you mean they don't go outside? Basic things.
Things have changed so drastically. And I think that's the reason why I wanted you here because we're focusing on the child right now, but you also help relieve and help the parent too, the professional with your other business.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's called Dr. Holmes Cairo to You, a
Yes.
corporate house call service.
Yes.
I love it. You
Ha!
deliver quality care to clients. I'm talking about parents too,
Well, listen,
offices, workplaces, gyms, whatever.
a
Talk
family.
to us about it because I mean, parents are like, okay, if I'm in the Atlanta area, let me learn about her.
Well, listen, and that's the thing. Chiropractic is 15% of my practice now. The major focus is on neurofeedback. I did offer house calls but right before the pandemic happened, just because I had so many patients who were unable to come to the office because Oh, a meeting came up. Oh, I got to pick my wife up from here. Oh, I got to pick my son up from practice. Oh, I have to do this. And I'm like, what if I could just bring my entire office to where they are? Like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
that'd be so great. If you could just come here at like 6 or 7. And in that way, we'll be able to, all the families here, you can adjust everybody. And like, we're great for the next day, So, and then also going into corporations and taking care of those patients. So, I've had people, especially who would stay at home to work from home, and so they're like, "Oh yes, please come," and they, write me into their schedule. Their logistics wouldn't change, and so most people think that chiropractors just crack bones. Chiropractors focus on the nervous system. The nervous system just happens to be surrounded by bones. So when the nerves and the impulses from your brain go down your spinal cord to the rest of your body without being interfered with at all, no misalignments or anything, guess what? Everything functions well, and you're healthy. You think clearly, and so that's why adding neurofeedback to my practice was so easy. Is because, oh my gosh, the brain, the spinal cord. Let's take care of the brain. Let's start. Where it all begins. So that's how I integrated the two. And so now, with my neurofeedback patients, one of the questions I ask, I said, "Do you have a chiropractor? If they do, great. Keep going to your chiropractor." And you'll be so surprised at how many parents see the chiropractor, but they don't take their kids, or the kids don't get adjusted. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So why are you keeping all this goodness for yourself, but you're not letting your children get adjusted? What's up with that? Like, my children have been adjusted since they were hours old. My first daughter was 8 hours old. My second daughter was 3 hours old. Little people get little adjustments. I don't adjust an infant like I adjust a toddler, like I adjust a teenager, like I adjust an adult, like I adjust an elderly patient. They all have different adjustments. And most people don't realize is that when children are born, doctors don't just sit there and catch a baby. Typically, they're pulling, twisting, and pulling out. So that's a lot of trauma to a young spine.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that's where the chiropractic comes in. It's like, and the children are better able to benefit from being adjusted because they haven't been through as many traumas as adults have. So they can hold their adjustments longer. Just think about how many times a toddler learns how to walk and how many times they fall. And so their spines get jammed
Mhm.
every time they fall. So yes, that's one of the things too. Just get your children adjusted. My goodness, like they will just. I was 22 when I received my first adjustment, and I played sports. And I'm thinking, man, had I been adjusted when I was younger, like maybe I would have had more speed on my ball. I was a pitcher. Maybe my jump shot could have dropped a little. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. You know, our parents did the
No,
best
no,
they
and
could at that time.
but I'm glad you helped explain it. I think people need to understand that it starts with the brain, and we have our nervous system, which is there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all interconnected.
Oh,
And that's
everything.
the reason why I wanted to bring both together because they're probably like, "Why is she doing bio neurofeedback?
Mm-hmm.
She's a doctor of chiropractic."
Yes.
Well, they are all the same.
Everything's connected. Everything's
Everything's
connected.
connected.
Everything's connected.
Everything is connected.
Yes. Yeah.
I do want to ask you, what do you find as the most joy when you are working? And the reason I'm saying joy, I'm not saying, adjusting is a joy or neurofeedback is a joy. I'm talking about like the outcome.
Ooh,
What is it that you see where I'm going?
that's so
The
easy.
outcome.
That is so easy. The transformations, like seeing, especially a child fidgeting and not being able to sit still to get the brain mapping done, and then they've performed my program, and then they're getting their follow up brain session, and then brain
Mhm.
mapping, and they'll finish it, and then I'll say, "So, do you notice anything different from this brain mapping from the first?" And one kid was like, "Oh my gosh, Dr. Holmes, I was able to sit through this. I wasn't moving around a lot." I said, "No, you weren't." And he was like, and his parents were like, because we needed that weighted blanket the first time. We needed that little fidget spinner. We needed some help. And I remember there was one patient, I was like, oh my gosh, I worked for that brain mapping because, woo, poor heart. I was thinking their brain just needs
Mm.
so much help. And it just, it's just seeing them struggle and then
Yeah.
seeing them no longer struggling. And then just the stories, I just love it. I just love it. I had one patient who was struggling in math. Well, he was failing everything. He was in a private school,
Oh,
and he came in one day. This is when we just had, because my programs you can do it at home now. This is prior to you being
okay.
able to do them at home. He came in and he was like, Doc, he said, let me tell you what happened. I was like, oh, he said, I was in class and the teacher was explaining, math, whatever he said, and I got it. He said, I got it the first time. He said, I was able to finish my homework. I was over there helping my friends and everything. And I said, well, what did your teacher say? He was like, what are you doing? He said, some brain core thing. And he said, so you may be on to something. I said, you think? And so he finished his program. And I said, okay. I said, the semester's going to be over, after your program is over. I said, so I'm going to call, follow up and see what happened with your grades. I want to know. Called and spoke to his mom. She said, he passed everything. I said, what did he get in math? He got an 88. I was like, oh, I want him to get that A. I wanted that A. I said, but I'll take an 88. I'll take an 88.
88.
And so his parents were thrilled, his dad especially, because it was a private school. They were investing a pretty penny in his academics. And so he was great. So it's those transformations. That's what I live for. That's what brings me joy.
Okay, so you brought something up that came to me, and I'm thinking somebody may have the same question I'd have. So once you have the 30 sessions, does it end there, or do they receive some tools to use after they've had the biofeedback?
So 30 sessions on average is about how many are required to start seeing the changes in the brain function. And that's for a straightforward case. So it may take longer if someone has autism or ADHD or something. I just want to make sure that's clear because people think, oh, I just need 30 sessions. No.
Okay.
No, that's the tip
Okay.
of the
No,
iceberg. Yeah, that's where it starts.
Oh, okay.
So I do give them some tips and some ways to enhance their neurofeedback sessions. And part of it, one of the things is what I call a digital detox. So let's get rid of all those devices at least an hour before you go to bed, and then get outside. And I mean, simple things. It's simple things. Sleeping at least 7 hours and making sure that you're drinking your water. A lot of people don't drink enough water. Water is what flushes your system out. It flushes all the toxins out. If you're not drinking water and I'm from Detroit, so I say pop. If you're drinking pop or soda, your body's not made of that. So it's important to do that. So yes, they get those extra tips and suggestions and support from me. I mean, I've had a patient even tell me, he said, I wouldn't have done so well without your unwavering support, because it's frustrating.
Wow.
It's frustrating when you're starting something new. With the sessions, you're watching something on a PC. So it's through a streaming device. So whichever streaming company that you have. And when your brain is in the correct frequency, you'll see what you're watching like you regularly would. It's bright, you hear it well. When your brain is not, then the screen will start to fade and then you don't hear it as well. So let's say you're trying to watch your favorite program and the screen is fading and you're not hearing it well. You're like, oh my gosh, like what is it? And I remember that particular patient telling me, he said, every time that screen fades and the volume goes down, it just reminds me of how messed up my brain is. I said, I can understand. I said, and this is the beginning. Once your brain knows how to function, once your brain gets it, then guess what? It's going to be brighter and brighter. I said, just you got to hang in there. You got to give yourself a break. Give yourself some grace. Who tries anything new and does it well the first time? Nobody.
No one.
Nobody.
And if they say they do, watch out.
They're not telling the truth. That's just brass tacks.
Mm-mm.
So he was able to get better and better. He's like, oh, okay, yes. And, so then now, he had 13 years of having headaches every day. Migraine headaches every day for 13 years of his life.
Wow.
He was missing out on family vacations. He would go, but he would spend more time in the hotel room or the Airbnb room than with his family because he just broke my heart. And then his brain started changing. His migraines started decreasing, and even the intensity. I mean, he's 13 years. I said, you're pleasant. I said, I would be a raving, not so great person. I don't even want to say the word, but I get a little slight mild headache and I'm upset. Okay. So I can't imagine a migraine every day. And even just like on a Zoom, he was one of my national patients. And so we do virtual communication. And the first time we met, everything was dark behind him because, lights aren't great for those who have migraines. And then we did this follow up. And I said, I see some light. I see some light back there. He was like, what? I said, light. I said, you remember you were in darkness when we first met? He was like, oh, I was, wasn't I? He had gotten so used to it. He didn't even see it, so
get out of here.
Just pointing out those little wins, to people and then seeing those transformations. That's what brings me joy. changing the life. I mean,
Oh.
that's life change. This neurofeedback is life changing. It changed my life, just my daughter's life, our whole family's life. So that's, you just can't put a price on that.
Well, I before I even send off, I just want to say, you know what, everyone, I hopefully these questions will help you because ultimately she gave you not just her background and her experience. She also explained the current practice of what she's doing with the biofeedback and how it connects to her chiropractic, her knowledge, because chiropractors are focusing on the nerve. They have to know the nerves. They have to know the human anatomy and physiology of everything,
Yes.
the pathophysiology of how things work. They
Yeah.
have to understand the physiology of everything. We can go on the history, the meaning, and the behind stages of it. And so that's the reason why she wanted us to understand the research behind of what's going on and how it helps. She even talked about the frequencies. And I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Holmes, for explaining all of that to us. I just wanted to give them just a quick recap on it because I think it's pivotal for them to understand that this is something that um, many homes are taking hold of and are feeling frustrated and they're exhausted. Children, even though they have ADHD and you see that they may not be attentive, when you finally get them to that point where they can actually listen to you, they will tell you, I'm tired.
Oh,
They
yes.
will tell you they want to be heard. And so what you're doing is you're opening the door for them, and that way they can have not necessarily a normal life. I don't like using that term, but they can actually live the way that they were meant to live.
Yes. A
Live
fuller life,
and
I like to
give
say.
back to the yeah, just loving it.
Yes.
Um Now, before I go, I've got to let the community know that we may have to have Dr. Holmes come back because I got wind that this book that has been out here for some time is like the book of all books. And I know you released it in July. Okay, I got you.
Yes.
But I got wind of it. I haven't read it. I apologize. You know I love reading a book.
Yes, I
Can you
told you
just
to.
explain to those of them who before we go, just a little cap
Sure.
because she's going to give us a little insight of something that she has even though she's been busy on one side, she's found a little time to talk about something that is really pivotal.
Yes. So my
Go
book
for
is
it.
called, thank you. My book is called Transform Your Brain with Neurofeedback, Restore Your Focus, Reduce Anxious Thoughts, and Revitalize Depressed Moods. I wrote this book so that the layperson would understand, get a better understanding of what neurofeedback is, how it works. And I included, I think it's 10 case stories of what we call instead of case
Oh
study,
wow.
case stories of all the different conditions that neurofeedback has helped with and all the successes that my patients have had with it. You won't have to consult a glossary to read this book. My goal
Thank
is
you.
just to bring awareness. Bring awareness. Again, this technology has been around for over 50 years, and most people have not ever heard of it. And I think that's a travesty. So my goal is to bring it to the forefront and to just open people's minds and give them another option. Provide another option for them to consider.
Yeah, I plan to get it. I think because I didn't want to just give the whole book in the beginning,
Sure.
I think people need to have background, some background knowledge, some history.
Sure.
And then maybe I could just bring you back to just help them understand the book just a little bit more and how it connects. I wanted to answer just some of the basic questions that people would have.
Sure.
And yes, the book is more in layman's terms so that everyone can read it and understand it, but sometimes getting that information for the forefront kind of helps. And they're like, oh, hold a second, it's piqued my interest. Let me go ahead and get her book. Yeah,
Yes.
you do.
Yes. It's human
You
nature.
just need to.
Human nature. Absolutely. I appreciate that. It's human nature for sure. For sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I just want to say thank you so much once again, Dr. Holmes, for just joining us on Cold Press Conversations. I just want to say you have provided a wealth of information that I hope many parents will be able to take heed of, even adults
Yes.
who may need to take heed of this because we do have adults with ADHD, ADD, depression, anxiety, PTSD, and other symptoms.
Absolutely. What do you think those children grow
I
up
went
to
down
be?
some of the list. Did I get some of the list, Dr.
You got you
Holmes?
got you got the majority of them on the list. Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Thank
I
you.
just wanted
Thank
to
you.
also let you all know I have a national program. So if you I have a complimentary discovery call, so you can call and set that up and just see if this is something because not everybody is a candidate. So if you want to see if you are a candidate, you can reach out to me. My website is bookwithdrh.com. So bookwithdrh.com. Any way that you put it in, it will come to me. So you don't have to be in the state of Georgia to
Well,
benefit from neurofeedback therapy. It's I call it a secret, and I don't want it to be a secret anymore.
Oh, excellent, excellent. No, I thank you. I really just wanted to make sure that they understood, and you did it because that was my next thing. We need to know how to get in touch with you. And I thank you. I thank you so much. Until next time, this is Dr. Jules signing off. I just want you to take care and remember that this is for your cognitive health and for your cognitive happiness. May each of you have a beautiful day. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Cold Press Conversations. If you love this episode as much as I did, I need you to head on over and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This is Dr. Jules signing off to health and cognitive happiness.